Okay, good evening and welcome to tonight's meeting of the North Application Planning Committee. Apologies, we are running slightly behind time. We got slightly delayed at our previous gathering. I'm Councillor Eddie Labour, the committee chairman. I'm going to do administration first. I'll then explain how the meeting operates, and then we will get into the items. Can I have apologies for absence first, please?
We've had apologies from Councillor Higgins and Councillor Morse, and Councillor Yarra and Councillor Dillon are substituting.
Both of whom are well known to us, having done this on many occasions before. Any declarations of interest? None. Okay. The minutes of the meeting 14th March are in our bundles. Can I take those as true and accurate, please? Agreed. There are no matters to be notified in advance as urgent. The matters which are numbers 6 to 9 as published are the ones we are taking tonight. Okay, a quick running order of how this works. There is a record of this meeting on the Council's YouTube site. The cameras for that face this end of the room. Those of you who are speaking tonight will be on camera. Those of you in the audience cannot be seen. But when you are up at the table, you can be. We are not expecting a fire alarm tonight, so if it goes off, we're assuming it's real. The two fire exits are either side of this room. The normal way out is through the next set of double doors and down the big staircase, but the officer team will lead, so we'll all make sure we get out quickly if that happens. Can I ask please all mobile phones are switched off or at least to silent? I would do my usual reminder, just for the record, this is a meeting of the committee held in public and not a public meeting, because people would be disappointed if I didn't. Conduct tonight's meeting, officers will present on all applications, which is in addition to the reports members have already had and read. There is one petition on item 6. Petitioners have a right to address this for 5 minutes. I do 4 minutes green, 1 amber, and when I get to red I will stop. That's to be fair to everybody. On a petition item, the applicant or their agent has a right to address us, but looking at the people in the audience, I can't see any applicants or agents. I can see Councillors White and Barnes from Cavendish, and I think Councillor White is planning to address us as a ward councillor. Members may ask questions of anyone who speaks to us. They may not. It's not them being rude. If they understand what you've said, they get your points. They won't ask any questions, but if they don't, they'll ask away. Decisions tonight are taken by the voting councillors. To introduce them, starting down on my far right, we have Councillor Graham, then we have Councillor Yarrow, Councillor Flynn, Councillor Jushu, Councillor Morgan. On my left, I have Councillor Oswald, Councillor Dillon, Councillor Catra. If between them all they manage not to make a decision, it's down to me to adjudicate, but I'm sure they won't do that to me tonight. Highways tonight is Peter Loveday. Neil McClellan, the Major Applications Team Leader, is presenting. James Roger, the Head of Planning, will offer us advice. Luke Taylor from Democratic Services is my clerk, and he has wonderful orange forms out there if anybody wants to fill them in and give us some feedback. And Jyoti Mehta is our legal advisor and provides us with advice if we require it. I'm going to move, please, straight to item 6, which is land adjacent to 29 to 33 Dollis Crescent. Neil, please.
Thank you. This application site covers an area of approximately 440 square metres and previously accommodated 10 garages. These comprised a block of 3 garages at both ends and a detached block of 4 garages centrally located. The central and northern blocks of the site have been removed, and the previously approved 2-storey block containing 2 flats in the centre of the site is now substantially complete. I'll show you some photos of that later. The scheme proposes to demolish the remaining garage block and erect a 2-storey building with an undercroft parking area for 2 spaces at ground level and a single studio flat located above that. So this is the site. These are the garages that have been removed. This is the block that is currently being built. Is currently being built, 2-storey block, 2 flats. And this is the location of the new development. So you can see the 2 undercroft spaces there. This is the access into the flat above, and this is the studio flat located above. And these are the elevations of that proposed building. That's an aerial shot of the site. There's some context photos. And this is the additional garage block that's going to be removed that will be the subject of the current application. You can see. Yeah, okay. The proposal is considered to be an overdevelopment of the site and an intrusive addition to the street scene which fails to respect the built form of the surrounding area. The proposal also fails to provide the minimum usable internal floor area of 37 square metres for studios as set out in the London Plan and national standards. The proposal therefore fails to achieve suitable living conditions for future occupiers, and the application is therefore recommended for refusal for the 2 reasons set out in the report. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Ms O'Hara, could you, if you come up to the table, if you press the button on the middle of the microphone there, it will light up, and when you begin to speak, we'll start the timers. Just press that. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Donna O'Hara and I represent the residents of Dollis Crescent. We strongly object to the proposal and we have 64 signatures against it. It is also opposed by the Eastcote Residents Association. We also have support from Councillor White. Plus, we have had Boris Johnson MP write to Hillingdon Council's Deputy Chief Executive on our behalf. Here's why we think it shouldn't go ahead. Number 1, parking on our road is abysmal. Dollis Crescent is a narrow cul-de-sac, so is severely restricted and parking is already at overcapacity. We can't always park, we have to compete with commuters for spaces and send our visitors elsewhere. This proposal provides no additional parking spaces for the new flat. In fact, it's taking away a parking space by demolishing the existing garage. 4 spaces were allocated and deemed acceptable for the 2 built original flats. So how can those same number of spaces now be acceptable for an additional flat? When you factor in the number of occupants, it just doesn't add up. It will result in the new inhabitants and their visitors parking on the road, blocking access and turning areas, even pavements, and causing obstruction to vehicles and pedestrians. We just can't afford to have this further parking pressure. It will cause chaos. Not to mention the safety issues it brings, especially for our blind and disabled residents and our young children. The land that is proposed for the new dwelling was originally intended for 3 parking spaces. Please, can we just go back to that plan, and it's the only sensible option. Number 2, we don't think the planned building will fit in our neighbourhood. Its design is incongruous with the surrounding buildings, and if you look down the road, there are no coach houses, cedar cladding or balconies in Dollis Crescent, so it would actually look very odd. It's cramped and it will have no associated amenity space, as the rear garden that's been mentioned is specifically allocated to the 2 existing built flats. It's being shoehorned into a tiny footprint to provide very limited living accommodation, and its design damages the character of our street. Number 3, we currently enjoy some degree of privacy. Living in a cul-de-sac means we don't suffer from high volumes of road or pedestrian traffic. It's a peaceful, quiet area and we're not overlooked. That's why we like it and that's why we live there. The proposal plans to place a Juliet balcony on the side, giving the occupants a direct, close sight line into our bedroom windows and gardens. We feel this is intrusive and will take away our privacy and the peaceful enjoyment of our homes. Number 4, we've had to live next to this rather scruffy building site for 1.5 years. There's been excessive noise from pile driving and machinery, dust, disruption and contractors and vehicles coming and going all the time. It's not pleasant to come home to, and frankly we're embarrassed to invite visitors round. Please, not another year of this. In summary, we're all hugely concerned about the disastrous impact this will have on parking and highway safety, the cramped and disrespectful design that will damage the character of the area, and the loss of our privacy. We care about our neighbourhood and the safety of our residents. All we want is safe and available parking and a peaceful and safe residential environment for us and our kids. The proposed development will prohibit all this, so we request that it's rejected entirely.
Thank you very much. Do members have any questions on that very clear presentation? No. Okay, thank you very much. Councillor White?
Good evening. This is a back garden development causing the residents distress. They're building a very different building to the existing houses, not matching or respecting the street scheme. The internal floor space is very cramped, even by council guidelines. When we expect to have an increasing elderly population which require more accessibility, this doesn't do it. We've already talked about poor parking. If you've seen the street scene, you can see how narrow the road is. By having a carport and a crossover there, you're going to lose part of that turning circle to get in and out. So not only assuming they do park in the carport, because you've lost a part of the street to actually park on. So the causing, and although we've talked about commuters, in the evening you can't park there, and that's not computers parking, it's just everyday residents. The residents can't park outside their own houses there. So I'm against it because of the lack of parking. And the loss of privacy has been mentioned. From the Juliet balcony, you have a direct sight line into number 31. So I think, for the sake of the residents, again, nobody likes having the idea of people looking into their back windows, their bedroom windows. And the amenity space. We ought to be considering gardens and things like that. And because what amenity space has already been, what they're doing is slicing and dicing an existing plan of the two buildings they've built, and then just for the sake of greed to build another property just to make money. And it's not in the good of residents, it's not in the long-term good of the borough, and it should be stopped. And I ask you to refuse this application. Thank you.
Councillor, do we have any comment on that? Okay. Thank you. I'll open to debate. Go on, Councillor, start me off.
I'm in no way an expert in planning, but I've done this long enough to know that if the developer is here, they think they stand a chance of winning it. The fact they haven't even bothered to turn up, I think, says everything we need to know. This is clearly not fit for purpose. I'd like to go with officer's recommendations.
Very sensible way forward. I'll take a couple more, but I think that's where we'll get to very quickly. Councillor Flynn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, there doesn't seem a great deal to recommend this particular application from everything
Can you find anything?
What I would say is I think there's quite a serious point here in that reading the report, clearly this proposed studio does not in any way comply with either our local plan, nor does it comply with the London plan. And I think it sets a very unhappy precedent for putting together studios that are clearly, significantly under what is desirable in floor space for human habitation. And I would actually go as far as to say I'd feel very sorry for the people who'd have to live in this property if, by some miracle, we did give consent to it. So, for that reason alone, I would agree with my colleague and would second that recommendation.
Indicate to speak, and I'll take those, and then I think we'll move this. Councillor Dillon.
Yeah, that's slightly more debate than I thought we were going to have already on this. I think we've had two reasons for refusal. I'm just going to add that we should probably try and increase the reasons for refusal because it's such an appalling design. Could we fit in that it doesn't keep in with the streets? That it is an incongruous design, and also could we fit in overlooking aspects as additional reasons for refusal?
We've got siting, size, scale, cramped form development, housekeeping existing built form, detracting the open character of the street scene. That's pretty damning, I would suggest. There's not a lot to commend it in those set of words, and then it's too small. I know we take a lot of phrases to say that, but I summarise. Councillor Morgan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. To quote a former colleague...
Oh, no, not that former colleague.
It's a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer. Thank you.
I'll second...
I think I have a seconder. So as it's a no-brainer and I have a proposal and a seconder on refusal, can I put it to the vote that we accept the officer report and refuse this for the reasons shown, please? Yep. Thank you very much. That's unanimous. Thank you. Right, I'm going to move now to item 7, which is 18 Highfield Drive, Ickenham. No petitions anymore. We're up and running.
Thank you, Chair. This application site comprises a large, detached two-storey dwelling located in Highfield Drive. The street scene is residential in character and appearance, comprising detached properties, the majority of which have been substantially extended. The development comprises the erection of a... sorry, I'll just show you this constraints plan. You can see it's just outside the green belt. It's the road plan. Apologies for the quality of the plans. That's the existing ground floor. Existing elevations, and this is the proposed ground floor, proposed first floor, proposed roof plan, and elevations. The development comprises the erection of a part 2-storey, part single-storey rear extension, 2-storey front extension, first floor side extension, the raising of the roof to create habitable roof space, including a rear dormer, 2 front dormers, 4 side roof lights, and the conversion of the garage to a habitable use. Planning permission was approved at committee for a similar scheme in June 2015. The main change being that scheme proposed one first floor rear projection, slightly larger than these two, but this split adds a second one and splits them up, so they sort of form wings rather than one sort of projecting wing at the rear. I'll just run through some... I think the key to this one is really how it sits in the street scene and how it impacts on neighbours. So this is the property in question. So you can see this is that's it there. This is a neighbouring property, which I think if you go back, you can see this has had a large first floor extension with cat side roof approved and built. This is the other property on the other side. That is that property. So the application property is here. That's the name of the property. So you can see it's quite a wide property in itself. And these properties recently built on the other side of the road, opposite the site. These are some more properties opposite the site. And there's some views up and down Harefield Drive. The application property is to the side here. Sorry, Highfield Drive, I beg your pardon. And then I've just got some views of other recently built replacement properties or extended properties located within the general vicinity of the site. So
I think members are fairly familiar with the drive and Highfield Drive. We've been down there a few times on site visits, so I think we do know the general location. Anyone who hasn't done this long enough, so therefore we'll send them down there to look at a view. But
okay. So I just have some photos of the rear of the site. So that's actually number 22. There is no number 20. You go straight from the application property 18 to 22. They have it'll come clearer in other photos. So they already have a large. That was a conservatory that they've had permission to put a opaque roof on. So our site doesn't extend quite as far as the end of there, albeit at first floor. Interestingly, this window will be lost, and there'll be no equivalent replacement window in the development, so it'll actually improve the privacy for the site next door. And that's a view of the extended property to the side. So there's cat slide roof with no habitable room windows in. Our proposal will extend a couple of metres beyond the rear of their extension, but it complies, as it does on the other side, with the 45-degree line. We don't believe there's any significant overlooking issues. If anything, overlooking is improved by this scheme in some ways. So we are recommending approval. Thank you.
Views? Councillor Graham.
Yes, Chairman. The proposed plans show a building that will not be out of keeping with what is there already. Everything that I've read in the report seems to fit with our policy, and I will support the application to approve.
That's one proposer. Councillor Catcher.
Thank you, Chair. It's just a question, and just to gain a little bit of knowledge from my point of view. I'd just like to know how much room should there be or is there a set percentages between the roof and the top window, because they seem very close, and I'd just like to know.
Is there anything there? Was it all about design?
Between on this one, well,
Yeah,
normally we require
yeah.
a significant, a noticeable setup from the eaves and a set down from the ridge, so that it appears you see a significant amount of the original roof or the extended roof.
Sorry, just
these other ones. The dormer looks fine. It's the ones below that appear to abut the roof line fairly, although it's not the world's best plan.
True. Well, there is no standard.
Okay. Well, that's the answer to the councillor's question. Then. There is no standard. Councillor Dillon.
Thank you.
I'd be happy to second this. I didn't think there were any more buildings along there that needed refurbishment, but
okay, unless anyone's got any other views, I think
you
it's
can
quite.
still knock down a £1 million house and build another £1 million house.
Yeah, I mean it looks quite sensible. Yeah,
it's fine.
All those in favour, please clearly show. Thank you. That one's approved. I move on. We're still in Ickenham tonight. Flat 1, Village House 13 to 15, Swakeleys Road. This is a conservatory this time. It's probably a more modest. Neil, when you're ready, please.
This application relates to a two-storey building located on the southern side of Swakeleys Road. The building is situated to the rear of 13 to 15 Swakeleys. So this is Swakeleys Road. This is the site. So it's actually related to a building located in the backland here. It was an office at one time, but has been converted to residential use via prior approval. That's a constraints plan. So you can see that's within the conservation area. And this is the building in question, and this is the conservatory that's been added. It's really better to see it in photo, I think. So obviously that's Swakeleys Road, that's the archway through to the site, and that it's a bit dark. That's probably a better view. So this is the building, the backland building that's become residential, and they've built this conservatory. And the application is to retain that conservatory. There's another view of it sitting on the terrace outside the front of it. That's neighbouring gardens, and I think there's a good, hopefully, that's a view from the garden that runs along from Almond Avenue rather, and past the site. So you can see that's looking into the side of a back garden. Sorry, I'll leave it on that one. The conservatory sits between the existing side brick walls and measures 5.87 metres in width and 2.5 metres in depth, with a shallow pitch roof. This is a relatively modest glass structure set below the eaves of the existing building. Perhaps if I go back to the plans, not particularly clear. So it sits below the eaves of the host building. You can see the building has these side walls built up over what was its terrace. So the conservatory sits between those two. So there's another one on the other side between those two side walls. The proposal includes a acoustic and screen and privacy screen requested by our EPU unit. So subject to our conservation people are happy that it doesn't have a negative impact on the character of the conservation area. So subject to those acoustic screens, these are those acoustic screens being approved and installed. The recommendation is to approve.
There is an addendum on this one because condition 3, as per the report, didn't reflect the fact that this thing is already built. Constitution.
I guess an observation more than anything else. Looking at those other photos, it didn't seem to be particularly in keeping with anything else round there, having an extension like that. So a big white extension, everything else seems to be brick built in the area. I know it's already built, I know it's up for approval. I guess my one concern is, what happens if somebody else sticks something up like that? Because surely we're going to say it's not in keeping with the area.
Fair challenge.
I mean, it's an unusual circumstance that you get something like that built at first floor level. So I don't know if that would happen again if there's another property capable of being extended in that way. I think we agree that view of it is in any way in keeping with the host building. But I think the view of our conservation officer was its location, the fact that it's sandwiched between two walls, and with a privacy screen around it, you'll lose sight of it, and they're confident that it doesn't impact sufficiently to warrant a refusal.
Okay, so but we could use that as a reason to reject anybody else trying to do it because it's able to have those screenings around it. Is that fair?
Yes, in this case, I think it's the fact that it's only visible from really this angle at the moment, and that's we're going to lose that view with the privacy and acoustic screen that's being proposed.
Just for the reasons that you've just pointed out, basically it's, you're filling in that little gap and having the screening. I think it's just about passable. Obviously, it's a very different building to anything that we don't see those kind of things come across so much. So, if okay, I would go with the officer's recommendation.
I'll hold that for a minute, see what the two other views are, but if nobody comes up, they can differ.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's pretty ugly to look at, and I never particularly like giving approval to people who build things and they don't have permission and they apply retrospectively. But despite all that, I would say I think we're going to struggle with refusal reasons for this, and I can imagine it would go down to Bristol, and there's a fairly high chance we wouldn't win. So, with reluctance, I would concur with Councillor Dillon, and I would support that.
Councillor Yarrow?
Just some information from officers. One of the objections to this from the people living nearby was that currently a patio is being laid on the roof, which leads us to believe this will be frequently used and should therefore be screened. Could you point out where the roof is and where is this patio?
In other words, cut the slabs outside, yeah.
It's as a result of those concerns that we've requested that a privacy and acoustic screen be put up around the outside of that terrace area.
Okay. Right. I'll take Councillor Graham. I have a proposal and a seconder, and then I'm going to move it.
Yeah, a complaint really. The plans that we've been sent are so small, I couldn't actually interpret them very well. But the other thing is, I'm not even sure as we sit here exactly where the screen is. Where is this screen?
The screen doesn't exist at the moment.
Sorry? I'm assuming it's going to be between.
It's to screen the rear of the site, so you see less of this from the surrounding buildings. That's the address.
So from the house in Almond Road,
we'll see less. They'll see the screen and not this thing.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
That's the idea.
Right. Yeah.
And it's done acoustically, so if they do decide to have, I don't know how many people they're getting a party up there, not very many, they won't be heard either, or they'll be heard less of. Right, we have a proposer in Councillor Dillon, we have a seconder in Councillor Flynn, accepting some reluctance, but we are where we are. All those in favour of approval, subject to the changing condition, please clearly show. That one's approved. I move to the last item of the night. 1B, Chancery Gate Business Centre, Stonefield Way, which is a storage to a gym. There you go. And there's a slight addendum change on this one. Councillor Oswald, you indicated?
Yeah, thank you very much, Chairman. Yeah, I'll move the officer's recommendation with the addendum.
Councillor Morgan?
I will second that, but could our officers tell me what is a property on the plans, pages 85 and 86, it says out of use, property of other tenants.
I'd imagine that means that space belongs to other tenants, is what I'm taking it to mean. That's what I took it when I read it.
Somebody can't spell property.
Somebody can't spell, but there are no prizes for that tonight. Yeah. Okay, we have a proposer and a seconder who accept officer recommendation as amended by the addendum. All those in favour, please clearly show. Thank you very much indeed. And at 7:45 with a late start, we are finished.